Bill, I did, and it really is a sad story. His sister would have turned 42 years old tomorrow, and now they're working to get her 2 children in Florida back up here. In fact, that victim's daughter is in the first week of her basic training for the Air Force. In the meantime, he tells us that community members are already contributing to 2 GoFundMe accounts that have been set up, one for his 41-year-old sister, Teresa Sexton of Petersburg, and then there's a GoFundMe for her boyfriend, Heston McCoy, who was badly injured in that crash on Saturday evening along I-95 South.
For this to happen is kind of trying to compute it. It doesn't make sense right now.
It's no surprise to Howard Sexton that his sister Teresa would be cruising the streets Saturday evening with her motorcycle club, but he never imagined the news he would get that night soon after getting off from work.
My cousin had called me to tell me that about the accident, so it was gut-wrenching at that time.
State police say there were 5 motorcycles traveling together at the ramp from Maury Street in Richmond to southbound I-95. 4 motorcycles lost control coming down the ramp, with some hitting the guardrail. The sad irony, he says, is just a week ago, Teresa and her boyfriend rode their bikes safely all the way from Petersburg to Florida so she could see her 2 children, the last time they'd ever see their mom alive. Howard says it's even more difficult because she died 3 days before her birthday, but he knows exactly what she would have been doing on that day.
Probably riding on the bike. So, I mean, in a way, she left this world doing what she really liked doing. I mean, she loved bikes.
Now Sexton is struggling with how to go on without his sister and says he's humbled that her motorcycle club family is helping with funeral costs. But he says GoFundMe account set up for her and her boyfriend Heston McCoy will be used by the families for other expenses during this very difficult time.
I'm very grateful because we're at a time where I'm struggling. So I really do thank them for doing what they're doing. And our thoughts are with the other ones that were hurt and injured too, because they also have family members that are grieving as we are.
Sexton tells us that his sister's boyfriend continues to recover in a local hospital. He says he's hoping the community will continue to pray for all of the families and survivors and those impacted by this tragic crash. And if you would like to contribute to those GoFundMe accounts, we will post those links on our website at WTVR.com. Reporting live along I-95, Shelby Brown, CBS 6 News.